The Orthodox Biblically Gospel according to John,
Jesus.
chapter 2.
The Gospel according to John, it's all about that salvation. It's John chapter 2, the first signs at Cana. 2:1. On the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding, and when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." Now there were set there 6 water pots of stones, according to the manner of purifications of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. And Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now, and take it to the master of the feast." And they took it, and when the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew. The master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said to him, "Every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior comes out. And you have kept the good wine until now." This is the beginning of the signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. And after this he went down to Capernaum, and he and his mothers and his brothers and his disciples, and they did not stay there many days. The cleansing of the temple. 2:13. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem, and he found in the temple those who sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers doing business. And when he had made a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and with the sheep and the oxen he poured out the changers and monies, and overturned the tables. And he said to those who sold doves, "And take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of merchandise." And then his disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house has eaten me up." So the Jews answered and said to him, "What sign do you show to us, since you do these things?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "Destroy this temple, in 3 days I will rise it up." And then the Jews said, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you will rise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple of his body. And therefore when he had risen from the dead, and his disciples remembered that he had said this to them, and they believed the scriptures and the word which Jesus had said. And now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover during the feast, many believed in his name, and when they saw the signs which he did. But Jesus did not commit himself to them, because he knew all men, and had no need that anyone should testify of men, for he knew what was in man. Wow, that's pretty deep. I do like to mention that he did say this in 2:3. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to them, "We have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman," he called her a woman, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me?" And of course they made an example about, they put the good wine out first, and when they get drunk they put out the bad wine because they can't taste it, they're drunk. So basically Jesus made the best wine, because he was like, wow, this is the good stuff. And cleansing of the temple, of course, we know outside of the temple, the Greeks weren't allowed to go inside, so they had to pray outside. And so the Greeks kind of opened up shops, because, they did a lot of sacrificing, so they sold doves and stuff like that. So that's why there was money changers and all that going on. And Jesus is like, what's going on here? Y'all should be praying. This is still my Father's house, even though it's outside of the temple. It's still holy, right? But this was his first sign. And I love the Gospel of John. I'll read it forever.